Old feeds became digital evidence because they preserve platform rules after the platform room has changed. That is the answer hiding inside a casual screenshot. A phone screen from 2016 may look too recent, too ordinary, or too emotional to count as history, but it keeps a record of what people saw, what buttons mattered, what metrics felt valuable, and what kind of public behavior the interface rewarded. The reason this matters is simple. Interfaces decide what people notice, metrics decide what feels important, and saved screenshots preserve those choices after memory starts turning them into nostalgia. First, old feeds preserve rules. A screenshot does not only show what someone posted, it shows what the platform placed near the post, what counted as public reaction, what buttons were easy to press, and what type of attention looked valuable. That makes the image more than a memory. It becomes evidence of how a room taught people to behave. Second, recent digital history moves faster than calendar history. A medieval manuscript can remain legible for centuries because its physical form changes slowly. A feed from 2016 can become strange in less than a decade because the ranking logic, comment design, creator incentives, and social expectations can all change. The years are close. The operating rules feel distant. For example, look at an old Vine interface. The 6-second loop was not simply a technical limit. It pushed creators toward instant setup, physical comedy, sharp timing, and repeatable punchlines. The app trained viewers to expect a reward almost immediately. When Vine disappeared, the company's story ended, but the style of attention did not vanish. It traveled into newer short video habits. Third, screenshots preserve social proof. A like count, a reply stack, a visible username, or an old share button tells us what a platform wanted people to notice. That matters because people perform differently when proof is public. They make jokes differently, argue differently, and measure success differently. The screenshot freezes those incentives in a way memory alone cannot. Now compare that with an old Twitter timeline. It is not valuable only because it looks nostalgic. It shows sequence, public conversation, reply habits, quote behavior, and the speed of reaction. A historian of the future could use that layout to ask what kinds of speech were rewarded, what kinds of conflict traveled fastest, and how a public identity was built one post at a time. This is where nostalgia becomes useful but incomplete. Nostalgia tells us the image feels emotional. Evidence asks why it feels that way. Maybe the colors are dated. Maybe the app name is gone. Maybe the comments look smaller. The feed feels less polished. Or the creator path looks more improvised. Those feelings point to design changes, and design changes point to power. At the midpoint, the real twist is simple. People often think the internet leaves too much evidence, but platforms also erase context very quickly. A post can survive while the room around it disappears. A screenshot can outlive the feed logic that made the post visible. That means the saved image may become the only readable map of a system that no longer works the same way. The next layer is performance. Old feeds show how people learned to become visible. They show how creators framed themselves, how audiences reacted, and how platforms rewarded speed, intimacy, outrage, jokes, or confession. This is not just media trivia, it is social history, because platforms helped shape how ordinary people practiced public identity. A good screenshot can also show what was missing. It may reveal who rarely appeared, whose posts were easier to ignore, what forms of harassment were normalized, or what moderation tools were weak. That matters because nostalgia often edits out discomfort. Evidence lets us hold the appealing parts and the ugly parts in the same frame. This is also why dead apps feel powerful in recent memory. A dead app is not just a failed company. It is a closed room with surviving habits. Vine, Musical Lie, early Instagram, and older Twitter layouts each taught different rhythms of attention. Some rooms closed, some were rebuilt, some habits escaped and became normal elsewhere. Finally, old feeds matter because they connect private memory to public systems. A viewer might remember a bedroom, a song, or a joke. A historian asks what platform made that moment legible to others. What rule shaped the post? What metrics made it feel successful? What design made a stranger respond? Which habit survived after the interface disappeared? There is a trust boundary here. This video is not saying 2016 was better, cleaner, or more authentic. It is saying that 2016 is close enough to remember and far enough to examine. That combination is useful. The emotions are still warm, but the systems have changed enough that we can see them from the outside. The practical lesson is this: when you see an old screenshot, Do not stop at the vibe. Ask what rule the image preserved. Did it preserve a ranking habit, a public metric, a joke format, a creator pathway, a conflict style, a way of measuring attention? Once you ask that, a casual screenshot becomes a small archive. So how did old feeds become digital evidence? They became evidence because platforms changed faster than memory faded. The people are still here. The images remain. But the rooms, rules, buttons, and pressures that shaped those images have shifted. The takeaway is that a screenshot is not only proof that something happened, it is proof of the system that made the moment visible. That gap is where recent internet history begins. If you like videos that treat internet memory as real history, subscribe. We will keep turning old screenshots, vanished apps, and familiar feeds into clear explainers about what changed, who adapted, and which habits still shape the platforms we use now. If this helped the trend make sense, please like the video and subscribe for fast, no fluff explainers. I'll see you in the next one.